Hello and welcome to On the Sofa with Simi, the brains behind Blissimi Beauty. This is a safe space for real conversations about beauty, business, life changes, confidence, hormones, motherhood, relationships, and everything and anything that comes with being a woman in this day and age. Wherever you are in life, if you're navigating some sort of change, you are absolutely welcome here. You may be rebuilding your confidence after having children, managing hormonal changes, or just trying to feel like you again. Thank you for being here. You are absolutely in the right place. So if you don't already know me, I'm Simi. I've spent over 10 years in the beauty and aesthetics industry, building Blissimi, working with thousands of women, who are amazing by the way, and hearing the real stories behind why those women walk through my door. And I'll tell you one thing, it's rarely just about skin. It's about confidence, identity, change, starting again, and sometimes as simple as just wanting to feel comfortable in your own skin again. This podcast is where I share what I've learned from business, from life, from my own journey, from motherhood, from relationships, and from the incredible women I meet every day. No perfection, no pressure, just honest conversations. So wherever you are right now, driving, working, walking, or just taking 5 minutes for yourself, grab a cuppa, get cozy, and come join me on my sofa. Hello, and welcome back to On the Sofa with Simi. Thank you so much for being here. So, surprise, surprise, today's episode is a bit of a personal one. At the ripe old age of 38, I got an ADHD diagnosis, and that was literally last month. So, I'm going to talk about that, what it looked like for me, and honestly, how much of my life has started to make sense. Because to be honest, ADHD didn't even cross my consciousness, no pun intended. I never thought I had it. I'll be truthful, in my opinion and in my experience, I thought ADHD was hyperactivity. I was running on all cylinders and I was doing a million things at once. But physically, I never looked like that. So I thought ADHD can't be me. So I thought, yeah, cool. All right. I just thought, and I was always told, you're too sensitive. You're too emotional. You're too intense. You're too all or nothing, as I like to call it, black or white. And I think a lot of women will relate to this because actually ADHD in women of a certain age doesn't often look how people expect it to. So let me preface this and say this isn't medical advice. It's literally just my lived experience and what it's looked like in my life, my business, my relationships, and how I've started to implement that and understand myself a bit better now. So who I thought I was. So I thought, just a bit of a funny personality, up for a laugh, make people laugh, living my best life. Like I said, all or nothing, YOLO, go hard or go home. That was always me. So I either did nothing at all, couldn't start, or I worked 150% and then I'd burn out. I could see opportunities. I can see the end goal. I can see the vision. I can see that gap in the market. I could hyper focus when something excites me. But then it was like, oh my God, I haven't replied to that message for 84 years. And that stack of Amazon parcel returns, I've been sat there for about 3 months and there's no way I'm going to get my money back now. So that really confused me because my brain felt like it was going 100 miles an hour, but my body was just not. And I thought, well, how can you be capable of so much, but struggle with the basics? Like, are you okay, hun? Like, what's going on? Never saw it as ADHD. I was told I was lazy. And that's something that stuck with me. And it is very much part of my story and it's something that I struggle with daily, but I'm working on that and that's a whole different bloody episode at this point. But I saw it as inconsistency and truthfully, maybe even a failure sometimes. And that is honestly quite heavy to carry for 38 years of your life, especially when you're running a business and then you're like two different people that see me on social media, the people that meet me out and about, my clients, like, wow, Simi, you've got your shit together. And then at home, it's like, Simi, you're lazy. Simi, you've not done this. Simi, they're not saying this directly, but I take it as you're not a very good mum, Anyway, again, I'll come back to that at some point, maybe, if you really want to know. What people don't see is the mental load behind it. So my 84 million tabs that are open in my head, the constant thinking, the constant analysing, and the constant self-criticism. So the type of ADHD I have, and this is something called inattentive ADHD. I was kind of borderline, but more leaning towards this one. So let me break it down for you. One thing I really think is important to talk about is obviously ADHD doesn't always look like what we think. And I mentioned this earlier. I wasn't kind of running around spinning on tables. And again, I'm not disrespecting anyone that does that, but that in my head was what I thought it was. You know, I don't think I was a hyper person. I'm fairly loud, disruptive, but not in the way that you think. Interrupting people all the time, not gonna lie, I do that a lot. And I literally have to think about it now, which is funny because I thought, I just can't keep this thought. I can't keep this voice in my body. I need to get it out. But anyway, that's again another story. And if you've met me in person, you know I do that a lot, but I kind of roll with it now. Like now I'm digressing on about this, but let me go back to actually what inattentive ADHD is. P.S. Tell me you've got ADHD without telling me. Listen to this podcast, love. Anyway, I wasn't physically hyper. I wasn't the kid causing chaos. I wasn't the one getting told to sit still. I wasn't fidgeting. My ADHD is much more inattentive. So what that means is I'm in my head constantly, overthinking, zoning out when I'm trying to listen. I could read a book in like a day. I could take 3 years to read a book and I'm still on the same page. I can start 10 things and struggle to finish 3, forget things unless I have 85,000 notes in my phone. I can see a few of you nodding along right now. And then feeling mentally overwhelmed rather than physically hyper. My brain is so busy even when I look calm. And that's why I think it was missed for so long. Because on the outside, you look capable, like, cool, you're doing all right in school. You've got some friends. You're all right, you know, cool, nice one, crack on. And then on top of that, when you get to your kind of old years, went to uni, got a degree, thought, fuck it, got another degree, did law, got a master's, studied in America, got a scholarship. Then I decided to travel the world doing makeup. You know, wow, like what a life, honestly. And I thought, looking back, I thought, bloody hell, wow, I did that. But internally, honestly, it was like I was managing total chaos. So this next bit, I think a few of you may relate to. For a long time, I was told I had OCD, right? And OCD, again, this is my experience and my understanding. I wasn't washing my hands 5,000 times a day. I wasn't switching light bulb switches on and off. But I used to love lists, but then I couldn't complete lists. I thought, why am I writing all these lists? And it wasn't because I had this compulsion to write lists. It's because I couldn't ever bloody sit down and finish the first list in the first place and actually get things done and tick them off. So again, I think what people were thinking they were seeing, and maybe my doctors, you know, the mental loops, the need to prepare, the rumination, the overthinking. And yeah, it can sit very closely to ADHD because when your brain struggles with regulation, sometimes you create control in other ways, right? So for me, it was writing these lists, but ironically, the reasons for them were very different. And trying to prepare for every single outcome out there, every single situation, trying to always be one step ahead. And it's not because you're obsessive, right? It's because your brain is trying to create safety. And when I started understanding ADHD, something really clicked. It's like, I didn't need to control everything because that's a lot of power, you know, like, I'm not being funny, Spider-Man, what was his name? Uncle Ben was right, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. Geez, my brain just struggled with switching off, filtering thoughts, prioritizing, regulating attention. And that is a very different conversation. Because anxiety says something's wrong with you. Understanding ADHD says your brain's just working a bit different. And honestly, wow, that was so liberating. So naturally, ADHD has had a massive effect on how I run my business. And you know what? Not always negatively. Some of my biggest strengths, right? And I will never regret it. I will never think, oh, I wish I found out about this sooner. I wish I took medication. I wish I had treatment. No, because having this bit of neurospiciness gave me my vision, gave me creativity, allowed me to see gaps and connect ideas quickly. That is ADHD. But where I've struggled with is, you know, I can see that beautiful goal, I can see that vision, but the bridge doesn't exist. I'm like about to free fall. And it's building that bridge, building that structure, maintaining it, the middle part of business, the consistency, the repetitive tasks. I can launch something, but actually carrying on and doing it every day, no, not for me. And sometimes for women out there, that might look like you go to the gym 3 times a week for 6 months, and then the next time you go is about 4 years later. That's also a form of ADHD. Sometimes it's like, oh, you need to get motivated. It's motivation. Once you get up and go, you'll be fine. To get up and go can be the hardest part of this, and I don't take that lightly. So, by the way, if you've got up and done something today that you really struggled with, well done. Round of applause for you. So, I build my days differently now. I no longer beat myself up about it. I know movement helps me. Being energized helps me. I function better when I have momentum. And that, like I said, doesn't mean going to the gym. But in terms of having a bit of flexibility in my day, a bit of time that I can kind of just get up, do something else, even if it's as simple as walking to the kitchen and back, making myself a cup of tea, coming back like that, you sound like, well, yeah, duh. But for some of us, that duh, it takes a lot of thinking and it takes a lot of action to get there. It's not as easy for us. It doesn't just come as a little, well, yeah, obviously I would have done that. Anyway, I noticed this with my health. On days where I'm productive, I'm seeing clients, I'm going out, I'm going networking, I'm doing admin, I'm actually feeling a bit focused. I cope so much better. On slow days, everything feels heavy. Honestly, it's funny because I have days off, and yes, it's very healthy to have days off, but on my days off, sometimes I'm like, oh God, I wish I was doing something. And then physically, I don't have the energy to go out and be physically doing all these things as well. And that comes to some other health concerns that I've had. But again, that's a whole different podcast. So what that showed me was my brain needs stimulation, but the right type of stimulation. I'm not here to force myself to do stuff that no longer brings me joy. I try and design my environment better. So this is the key takeaway. And if you take away anything from this podcast, ADHD isn't about discipline. It's about design. So just write that down. I think that's a really good nugget there. And another part of ADHD for me, and we've probably heard this term, is masking. And what does that even mean? And I think a lot of women, ADHD, neurospicy women, have become very good at appearing capable because on the surface, you look amazing. You've got your shit together. You over-prepare, we over-deliver, we overthink. What do people see? Wow, confidence. They don't see the internal effort sometimes required to just maintain that. Like if that's your base level, it's hard bloody work. And on that, you might have heard of something called rejection sensitive dysphoria. And wow, I should be the poster girl for that. So a client not replying, someone seeming off, a critical comment, my brain goes, what did I do wrong? Oh my God, what are they going to say about me? Should I have said that? Should I not have said that? Oh, I've just lost that business. Oh my God, I've just offended that girl. Oh, I should have kept my mouth shut. Even though logically, you haven't, and they probably didn't even remember what you said, you will stay and ruminate on that for hours. And when you run a business and you're visible, right, that is exhausting. So understanding that is part of your ADHD helped me separate reality from reaction. I almost kind of, bless and release. It comes into my head and I'm like, cool, thank you. Everything's okay. It's not the end of the world. If it happens, it happens. If someone kicks off, if someone complains, if I've offended someone, no, it was never intentional. And we will deal with that when and if. And the if is hardly ever there. It never happens. So what the diagnosis changed for me? First and foremost, it didn't change who I am. It just explained who I've always been. And that was so freeing. Because instead of asking, why am I like this? Why am I the way I am? I now ask, how do I support this? I've become kinder to myself. I'm not lazy. So you can get rid of that word. I've become less harsh, less self-critical. I still have high standards for myself, but I no longer attach the shame to the difficult days. That was a big one for me. And that's huge because shame doesn't help growth, right? Shame, we don't like that word. Be gone. Understanding is what helps you grow. So what has ADHD given me? Do you know what? It's given me a hilarious personality, I think. I think I'm really funny because, it's like cool, crack a joke and no one can realize how your head's going at 1,000 miles an hour. It's given me creativity, empathy, drive, intuition, resilience. And I genuinely think my ability to build Bellissimi came from partly how the way my brain works. I always just knew there was something there and I always wanted to do more. That drive, that passion, the vision, the refusal to settle. ADHD didn't stop me building my life. It just helped me to understand how to protect myself while I do. And that just means your energy, your physical health, your mental health, and all the things in between. So if you're listening and you're nodding along and you recognize in yourself, hello, I see you, but you're not broken, you're not lazy, you're not inconsistent. Maybe your brain just works a bit differently. And honestly, understanding that, it's not about labeling yourself. I don't go run around and say that to everybody, I've got ADHD, I've got ADHD. I only take my medication sometimes. And again, a bit naughty. I take it on the days I really need to focus because then the medications come with their own side effects. I found out on the days I take it, I can't sleep properly. So yeah, again, conversation for another time. But I know how and when to make it work for me. So again, no medical advice, please preface that, speak to your doctor. But it's about giving yourself compassion. And for me this year, it's not been about the diagnosis. It's understanding, it's the awareness. And when you understand yourself, you stop trying to become someone else. Like, it's as simple as that. You start learning how to become a better version of you. And if that ain't what Bellissimi is all about, I don't know what is. But tell you what that gives you, peace. Life is much more peaceful. So, as always, thank you so much for joining me on my sofa. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who else can't get my words out. Here we go, my ADHD, I'm crashing now. Share it with someone who might need to hear it too. Thank you for joining me. As always, it's been a pleasure. My DMs are open. You know where I am. And wherever you are in your journey, you are not alone. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.